That was so exciting. There were some really good updates in this. I mean, there's always good updates every single time, but I always love seeing them demoed here. I just want to make sure that I didn't completely lose my mind, but did we discuss facet counts yet? That is on the agenda for.
Yes, we did go through them at the beginning.
Okay.
But if anybody wants more info, happy to discuss more.
Got it. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss all the juicy bits. So next on the agenda, I think all of you should already be familiar with Cody, who has been our wonderful Aspen support analyst. But we have some great news. She was promoted to our new Aspen developer. So she is going to be working on helping with bugs and new developments and all that cool stuff. So everybody clap, thumbs up, celebrate for Cody. We are so excited to have another developer on the team. So,
and all that browse category stuff that we were showing Cody did. So
she's already doing stuff.
She's already doing stuff.
But that does mean that we are hiring to replace her as the support analyst. So if you check our website, you should be able to find that job posting. Not that we're trying to poach anybody, but if you know someone who might be interested, we are still looking. All right, I think next, let's talk about something that we've been toiling away at and hinting at for quite a while now, since before the beginning of the year, and we are finally ready to introduce the Aspen Help Center. So it's definitely been a team effort, but I will say that Cal has really just taken the ball and rolled it down the hill, and it's snowballed into this giant, wonderful thing. Cal, do you want to give everyone a preview of the Help Center and get everyone?
Yes, my heart is beating so fast. I'm like so excited. I can. Okay, so I'll post the link in the chat. And let me share my screen. All right, if anyone wants to follow along, basically we revamped the Aspen Help Center. So we're retiring, I forget what word we decided on. We are slowly transitioning away from the current help manual. I live in Florida, so retirement, I just want to use that word. But instead, we have made help.aspendiscovery.org. So bookmark it, get used to it. We will start probably in the next release, wherever you see documentation currently in the back end of Aspen, we'll start linking out to this help center. I will say we have been working at night and during the day whenever we have a little bit of time to work on this. There's a lot of stuff that we still want to add. So just know that we're still working on it, but we have so much more than that's in the help manual available already. So we wanted to not wait any longer and share it with you all. So there's a couple different ways to search in this help center. We have it categorized more in terms of what you're looking for. So are you looking for something related to your patrons and your users? We have some direct links here to check out things like lists, for example. Then when you click into this list section, we have all kinds of information from the patron perspective, as well as from the administration point of view on how to actually set up this stuff in the back end. And then we have things like the videos and Aspen Weeklies linked on each of the pages. So we have crammed in as many resources as possible into these pages. The other wonderful thing about this help center, one of our recent releases, we made these pages able to be indexed and searched. So if you search for something like browse category by keyword in library website now, you will get results. So right at the top, I'm looking for help with browse categories. I see help for browse categories. And we talked again a couple months ago about Tango. So you will see some, let me find some embedded tangos right within the help center. So in this example, this is adding a browse category from a list. If you click through here, you will see exactly how in Aspen to do it. You can also click on view and download full text for this to get the PDF instructions. Back at the homepage, we also just have things like our YouTube linked, our Bywater website, information about Aspen Gathering and Slack, and we even put the handy dandy our calendar up here, so you can get your Eastern calendar, your Central, Mountain, Pacific, all of this awesome information all in one place. Morgan, do you want to add anything that I missed?
No, I think you covered it all. So we are just really excited to present this to everybody. And yeah, I think once we finally get more of the content built out, I think our next step is probably going to be going through and updating some of those old tutorial videos and making sure they're, you know, more current with the recent interface changes and updated features and all that good stuff. And also, if you notice that there's something missing from the Help Center, like you tried to search for something and you couldn't find it, or it's just not there, please let us know, because we try to imagine all the different things that people would want to learn about, but we might have missed something. So let us know if you can't find something, or if we just haven't made it yet. And also, if you have something awesome to contribute, even if it's just something that you have made for your staff internally and you want to, you know, share it with the community, please send that to us. Just, you know, email one of us or open a support ticket, because we can definitely add that to the Help Center and make it even better. I think the long-term goal is to eventually make it so that community members who want to regularly contribute or like be a part of the team that manages the content, we can get you a login to the Help Center site, and then you can help actually just put in the content yourselves and manage things. So if you're interested in that, not that you don't all have enough things to do on your day jobs, but if you are interested in helping, we would more than welcome that. So are there any questions or thoughts about the Help Center initially? Yeah, Jonathan says in the chat, wow, searchability. Yes, that's one of the things we wanted to do. And the idea of taking Aspen and using it to create a help center. It was just a really cool thing that we're able to do. Just speaks to the power of Aspen, really, that you can take content and make it searchable like this, even if you don't have library catalog. So. All right. Well, hooray, celebrate. Awesome. I am so happy that we have presented this. Yay. Thank you everyone in the chat. All right, so more happy news type stuff. I just wanted to remind everyone in the community that Bywater every month, we do something called Librarian of the Month. And it is not just for Koha. So if you've seen those, you know, announcement emails like, you know, congratulations to this Librarian of the Month. If you know someone at your library who has done great things with Aspen, or just a great, you know, librarian in general, feel free to nominate them. Send us an email. The email is outreach@bywatersolutions.com, and that's on the agenda as well. Yeah, just email us, tell us who you think deserves to be Librarian of the Month. They get a fancy plaque. It's really official looking. I can't remember if they also get anything else, but they definitely get recognition and a good feeling in their heart. Yes, Elise has some goodies. So yes, it's a placard and some goodies. So definitely nominate people if you think they are deserving, because libraries are filled with so many deserving people. Oh, was someone going to say something? I thought I heard a little word, but okay. Next on the agenda, we have a really, really cool announcement. I think I'm going to let Mark announce this. So.
Yeah, so we've talked with a bunch of different people about the possibility of doing the Aspen Con for a while, and we have approval at Bywater to help support an Aspen Con. And so we want to start figuring out what that means. And we don't have that long because we're kind of thinking like next spring would be cool if that would work. Maybe next fall. Do we know, like, is there a show of hands or something for who would be available in the spring? We'll do some polls later too, but I think it's really cool to get people together in person to talk Aspen. So we're in very early planning stages. Swan has agreed to have one of their libraries host. We talked to them about it yesterday, so we still have a bunch of details to figure out, like when and where exactly, and part of that depends on how many people are involved. But Chicago area, hopefully easy for everybody to get to, not too long of a flight. In the center of the country, hopefully reasonable accommodations and don't need to get a car or anything, hopefully. So yeah, who all is interested in coming to Aspen Con? Yay. Got some shows of hands. Can we get a woohoo? Yeah, so our concern was the fiscal year 2023 budget, travel budget might be decided already, but if it makes a difference, we can look at spring or fall or that kind of thing. But yeah, we will start putting out some polls to try to figure out what all is, what all the best times and that kind of thing are. So big thank you to Swan for offering to host it. Yeah, it sounds like we've got a lot of interest. So we'll get out some polls and stuff to get more details. So yay, excited to see everybody in person.
Awesome. Yeah, when Mark said that news in a meeting, I think we were all just so excited. So yay, I would love to meet Aspen people in person. It'll be so fun. So speaking of Aspen and stuff, I'm going to turn it over to Jordan for our review and priority planning. Take it away, Jordan.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Okay. So what we do every month, we review what we did over the last release, just kind of our plan and how we met the plan, because we talk about commitments to you and wanting to make sure that we're meeting our commitments. And then we give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what we're planning for the next month. So here on the left, you can see what we showed you our plan was last month. And then over here on the right is what we finished. For this release, we put high priority bugs and partner priorities at the top. And I think you could see a lot of that in what Mark was sharing. And the things that we don't announce ahead of time, there's always lots of surprises. Those are always coming from partner priorities. Those are coming from you saying, this is my top priority, or from us hearing about bugs and saying like, oh, yep, that's a high priority bug we need to do. Other than that, we did finish the EBSCO host integration. Library Evolve, that new ILS, we are still working on that, and that was the plan. We're going to have more of that this month. We're likely going to be finishing that up in August, so that's going to be ongoing for a while. I also got to show you the loading browse categories for LIDA. And then we did get a start on our stretch notifications and system messages. This is for LIDA as well. So we have a plan, and for our very first notifications, we decided we definitely want to do notifications for holds. We want to do notifications when things are overdue, but we also wanted to be really intentional with our app users to make sure that we get those things right. So we're going to do something that's a little bit simpler first to make sure we know and understand how it works before we do the more complex things. So what we're going to do is notifications for saved searches to learn how all that functionality works. So when a user saves a search, if a new title comes up that matches that search, they can opt in for notifications. So when you create a saved search of your favorite author or of a specific topic, that's what we'll be working on first to learn how all that works. So I gave you a little bit of one of the things that we're going to be working on, the notifications and lead on the right. I also said we're going to continue Evolve implementation, and then we're going to keep working on those things that everyone's been ranking, the partner priorities and the higher priority bugs. So not a huge surprise here. We're just keeping the train going in the same direction that it was before. Any questions on our plans for what we're doing in July, or any comments? We'll find the chat. Nothing yet. Great. You can always reach out to me if you have questions about what we're doing and why. And we do actually look at those priorities, and we do rank our bugs to make sure that we're getting the most important things next. Okay, I'm just going to keep rolling because we have 4 conversation topics today and about 20 minutes to cover them in. So we're going to do the best that we can. This is one that came up recently with the 490A and series data. So this is how series are displayed in Aspen. So according to, I'm going to say I'm not a cataloger. So if we got real deep, like other catalogers in the room are going to have to help cover me. But I have enough to do this to start this conversation. So the official MARC fields for series are the 800 and the 830 and some subfields in there. Many libraries also use the 490, but technically to use that, you're supposed to also have some data in the 800 fields. But it has come to our attention that some libraries, just through local practices, are only cataloging series in the 490. So because we like to support everyone, we want to see if there's a way that we can support those libraries that are using their workflows and have been using the 490. So what Aspen currently does is it only supports the 800 and 830. But just as a side note, it does support the 800, the 830, and the 490 for series search. And my understanding here is that's because the 490 is used for alternate titles of series, so things that patrons might look up but aren't actually the official title, just to make sure that we can find everything. So our options here are that we can continue what we're doing today. And again, we're only talking about display. We're happy with the way that it's pulling things up because it's searching everything. Second, we can use the 490 as a fallback if the 800 or the 830 isn't cataloged. To me, this one makes the most sense because it does what we do today. But if you don't have that data, then we can still provide some information on series. So what we would want to know here from anyone is anyone using the 490 for something that then if there wasn't anything in the 800 or 830, it would not make sense to be displaying what's in the 490 for series. The other option is that we could use all 3, but for display, that could get messy because if the 490 is used for like different versions of the title, then for display, you're going to have it's going to like display a whole bunch of different series. So thoughts on, I guess what we're talking about is switching from number 1 to number 2, but number 3 is also kind of an option out there if anybody wants to bring it up, or if you have something that we haven't thought about.
This is Scott at Swan. I just wanted to say that number 2 is probably our best bet, only because just to sort of amend your definition of the 490, it's not necessarily an alternate. The 490 is sort of supposed to represent how the series is displayed on the item. And then of course the 800, 830 is like an authoritative standard way of saying it. So I think the fallback makes the most sense considering that usage for us as well. We are one of the libraries that tends to try to have an 800, 830 whenever possible. My question for you then, just about this is, we're talking about series display in sort of that main view of the grouped work, correct? So there could possibly be multiple series. Okay, but this doesn't supersede the series that we're displaying through Novelist, right? Those would still be present as well. Okay.
Yes, Novelist would still be present as well. Meant to say that and forgot.
Great.
And thank you for the correction on the 490.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments, specifically objections to number 2, but any comments? Okay. If something comes to you later, if it's during the meeting, go ahead and throw it in chat. You can always reach out to me either through a ticket or Jordan@bywatersolutions.com. But we'll just kind of start to we'll look at doing number 2, at implementing number 2 to help out those libraries that have been using the 490. Moving right along. So this is a follow-up from last time. This slide is directly from our last conversation, talking about relevancy and e-content. And we had some libraries that for certain searches, the e-content was maybe a little too prominent for their liking in the catalog. And we said, I wanted people to have a chance to think about it and come back. So this is your chance to have another comment on it. I will share the comments that came up. We did have just a very brief discussion last time. And it was mentioned that content, because Hoopla's, I don't want to say the main offender, because they're like the big content provider. They just have a lot of content here. So that content can be suppressed in Hoopla. And that if you suppress it in Hoopla, it's also suppressed from the APIs in Aspen. It was suggested we could also offer a filter to show only physical materials. Right now we do have, for libraries that have the right configuration, to only show digital materials, to just show the ebooks. So I just wanted to pause to see if anyone, I don't know, woke up in the middle of the night and was like, oh, I have a new thought on this thing that came up at the gathering. The sense that I got at the gathering is that we're fine pretty much with leaving it the way it is. So that's kind of what I'm going to move forward with. But as always, if anyone has additional suggestions, things we haven't thought of, with Aspen, it's not really made for collection development. We like to leave those in the systems where you actually buy the materials or the ILS. But you know, if there's a good reason to do it in Aspen, we definitely want to stay open to whatever that reason is. Flipping back to the last one for just a second, I see Lauren commented that she thinks, we'll actually go back, option 2 would be great, but she doesn't think many of her records have an 800 or an 830. So if you feel like your library falls into that category, I'd suggest just reviewing the 490s that you have, if you have 490s and no 800s or 830s, just to make sure, like, yeah, okay, we're fine with those displaying as series data. And if you're not, then reach out to me before we make this change, so that you're not displaying things that we don't want to show as series data. But if you don't have anything in 800, 830, or 490, you're just not going to get series data unless you have Novelist. And so if you have Novelist, great. Okay, we're going to leave this one for a bit, but same, feel free to comment. The next one is something that has been in the works for a few months. And we're really excited to finally get to show it to you. This is something we're tossing around for new facet design. I want to talk a little bit about the impetus behind this, our goals. With LIDA, and especially with responsive design as well, we want to make sure that the design between the app and the website, that there's a natural connection between the two. So when someone is searching in the app, then they come into the library, and maybe instead of pulling their phone out of their pocket, maybe they use one of the OPAC computers there, or they're at home, that it feels like the same user interface. It feels like the same experience. We also wanted to take a minute to do some usability and just check in on this design. Because we wanted to make sure that if we're changing something as big as facets, and this is going to take a while, I can tell you right now, you're not going to see these changes next time, because it'll take a while to roll out. We wanted to make sure that it was usable and that it worked for both patrons and librarians. So quick shout out to Tara from Swan, because she did a couple of rounds of usability studies for us. She did one that was with patrons, and then another with librarians, and we'll talk about those usability results. But first, I'm going to walk you through what we were thinking. So whenever we look at a new design, we want to make sure that it works the same way other sites that our patrons use work. That's just a good design principle. It's, you know, it works in the physical world, it works in the digital world. You expect a doorknob, you can see a doorknob and use it. You don't have to figure out how to use a doorknob every time. So a site that we know many of our patrons use, probably we use too, is Target. So I'm going to go ahead and search. You can see I've recently searched hat. Now take a close look at these facets or filters. We should probably call them filters now for sure, because they're more like filters than facet. You have a couple of different ones up here at the top, and then you can just click on one, color. And if I wanted to narrow it to blue, let's say blue and purple, You can, now you notice you have to, if you want to do more than one, click multiples and then click update. It doesn't update automatically because it's giving you the option to select more than one. And then I get the blue and purple hats. I can also do something like click category, and let's say I want sports outdoors. We also have this filter button up here. And if you click on that, you can see what you've already selected. Let's say I want green and I don't want purple anymore, and we're going to update that. So that's just a new facet design that I've seen a couple of different places on the web. It works really well on responsive design. So I'll kind of pull this in and make it smaller. It still kind of hangs out there at the top. We have a little bit of a scroll, or you can click to advance to see more. But it takes up less screen real estate, but is also really responsive, or really usable. Usable is what I was looking for. Wanted to show you one other one, like the gold standard in search, Google, right? Let's do the same thing. Let's search hat. Now this is just the all results, but if you go to their image search uses a really similar pattern. It's a little bit different because they're not pulling up the list of results, but you can actually, it's the same, it's visually the same. You have these little boxes, or if they're round, they're called pills at the top, and you can make selections to narrow your results. And then we have this slider right here. Okay, so now that you've seen the trend that we are seeing on the web with how new kinds of filters work, I'm going to go ahead and show you some mock-ups that Kirsten did for Aspen. So this is not a full live site. These are mock-ups. You can only kind of click on certain things to make them work, but we'll be able to show you what we're thinking. Okay, so here's a search for National Geographic. The search results down here aren't going to change. We're just looking at how the filters work. So let's say I wanted to narrow my search to the format of large print. I can click on format. And then large print, I could click multiples if I wanted to, and then that same update view. We've left it on the left for now because that's where people are used to looking for facets. You can, let's see, another one. Let's say we wanted to do fiction. You can narrow to fiction right here. And if you see right here, we're starting to see the selections that we've made. This scroll also works. So we could do added in the last, and let's say month, and update. We also have this filters button right here. Normally, it's a limitation of our mockup. Normally, what you had selected, you just like on the target mockup, you would see that right here. I also want to point out that we have a sort up here. So our sort option in this mockup is up here, and you can select, well, actually, I think date purchased is the one that we can select. You can select this and update. This, I will tell you, did not pass our usability tests. So that sort option, patrons had a hard time with it, librarians, most of them found it, but had a hard time with it. So we'll be looking at a different way to do that. So that's again, why we do usability. We figure out what works and what doesn't necessarily work. But everyone was able, I will correct. All of the librarians were able to find and easily use the filter buttons. Most of the patrons were able to find and easily use the filter buttons. Within the study, there was a question of whether or not you typically use things like facets and filters. So what we found is that the patrons that didn't, or what Tara found in her study, is that the patrons that didn't use filters at all, that expected the search to be smart enough and the relevancy to be good enough, they were the ones that tended not to see this, which is kind of what we want anyway, because if they're not going to use it, their eyes just kind of go past it. So overall, this was in general a success. I want to show you what this looks like in a responsive view as well. So same kind of deal. You have the filters up here at the top, these scroll. You have that filter button where you can select fiction or nonfiction. Another thing that we tested that I don't have working on this mockup is the ability to exclude options from filters. So you'll have to use your imagination just a little bit here, but this also did really well in usability testing. So when you want to include it, first click or first touch tap is a green checkbox. The second tap then would be an X that says exclude this topic. And then the third tap is just go back to nothing, to not displaying the check mark at all. So that was something else that we've had a request from partners is, okay, how do we exclude something from a filter? And we found that this check mark, X, and then blank again worked really well. Oh, I have to click update because it's mock-up. One other thing, let me see if I can find it. I might have to go back over here that I wanted to show. Okay, we have it up here. We wanted a way to search within formats. And again, it's not working on this exact mock-up, but we are talking about putting a search box up here so that for something like subject, we would be able to narrow the subjects down a little bit for the blank search when somebody might not know exactly the right exactly the right subject. So that's another filter feature that we're talking about adding. Okay. I promise I will pause for questions at the end, but I do want to show you a little bit more of the usability. I think hopefully if I click this, it'll start from that one. Yes, good. Okay, so these are our takeaways from the 2 usability studies that Tara did, and she'll get a chance to say some more here too. So patrons who would use those filters easily found the filters. I already said that. They were able to use it. Librarians, the same. They found it and it was easy to use. One question we weren't sure about was the swiping at the top or using that arrow to see if patrons could find all of the optional filters, and that passed. Everyone was good with that. The solution for sort that we put in there, even though it's exactly what Target has, we need a better solution. It doesn't work well enough. The include and the exclude to say, yes, I want this. The second check to say, with the X to say, no, I don't want this, or then blank was easily understood by patrons. They could include or exclude things from the facets. This is just a comment. It was just kind of cute. So users, this was the general thing, but I liked the quote from the study was that users liked how once it was selected, it was easy to see at the top and it was green, highlighted in green, and on the left, it kind of scooched left. And some librarians, I just want to say, since we tested with both, they like the new design. They could use the new design, but there was a little sense of missing the filters on the left just because of the familiarity, but there wasn't a usability issue there. So I'm going to turn it over to Tara to see if she has anything that she wants to add to the usability.
Yeah, I just say like big kudos to Kirsty and Bywater folks. I think there's a lot of really thoughtful details on kind of all the interactions of how the filters work that really, you know, kind of were super clear during the testing, like the facet scooching left, which I also love that. that term, and just, you know, like the real clarity on like this is what's applied, and how to update the filters. All of that stuff was really good, and also the include exclude was super clear even for patrons that were just like, I would never use filters. Like anytime you're like, oh well, could you filter down to the large print? And they're just like, I would never do that. Why would I do that? It's right here in the search results. They could still, like, you know, kind of once they were prompted to get in there, could use those like include and exclude and work their way around. So I think this is a really good direction. And I think even though some folks are like, I like the permanent filters on the left, like, you know, I'm so trained by the internet to have, they're still on the left. It's just that kind of progressive disclosure, kind of keeping them hidden and out of people's way if they're not going to use them, I think is actually it's a real advantage, and there will be enough really nice features for some of those like power users and librarians that are using a lot of filters like searching, the include exclude features, all that kind of thing. But I think they'll get over maybe that initial that kind of initial change. I think one librarian said like, you know, I'm not devastated. Like, it's different, but I'll be fine.
I noticed, Tara, that one of them was like, I really like the facets on the left. And they said, you know how Amazon and Target work? And I'm like, well, yeah, you need to go back to Target.
Yes, I did. I made a note and I noticed like a couple of their websites that they mentioned, they were using the horizontal filters, and some were also kind of hiding some of those options behind a filter button as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. It's an enormous help to have somebody that knows how to conduct professional usability studies helping us with this. And with open source, it takes the whole community. So it's huge. So thank you. We have a comment from Chanel that says, would be even cleaner if when you exclude the facet, it has a strike through in addition to the X. And that's just something we didn't show in the mockup. At the top where the green, I was going to show you. Where it has the include and it liked the scooch to the left. If you exclude something, what you have excluded will also show up there at the top in red with a strike through. So that's more a limitation of the mockup that we had than how it would work. And we had an earlier version that did that, and that was part of Tara's first test with the patrons. Any other thoughts? It's a big change. Like I said, it's not coming next month. Oh, important thing I didn't mention is our initial plan, unless you tell us otherwise, well, we'll probably do it for a while. This will be an option. So we'll provide kind of a transition where you don't have to, we're not just going to flip this switch on you one day and all of a sudden your facets are at the top. We'll, at least for a while, make it an option so that people can test it, get used to it, get some patron feedback to smooth that transition. We have 2 minutes. Well, first of all, any other comments? We have 2 minutes left. I'm thinking that instead of going over the next one, maybe we put together. So the next one is it's just a quick change. Maybe next week we will do a poll and post it in Slack or find a way. We have a really quick change we want to make to some formats. And we have a poll that goes with it, but I'd like a little bit more time to show and explain so you can absorb. So we'll either do something over Slack or send something out over email, or we'll do it at the next gathering. We'll talk as a team since we didn't quite have time. We had too much to cover this time. So I will stop sharing and turn it back to Morgan to close out for us.
All right, thank you so much. I think some of these changes that are in the works are super exciting. So thank you again to everyone who has been involved in the usability testing. I'm so sorry that we don't have time for open time this month. I know I invited at least one person to perhaps discuss something in open time, but we just had so many things to cover today. But yeah, if you have any comments or questions about anything we presented today, please send a ticket, join us or comment in the Slack channel. And I also wanted to remind everyone that the next community meeting is on July 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern. So the community meeting is a separate thing from the gathering for those of you who are just hearing about it. And it's purely driven by library members in the Aspen community to discuss and prioritize ideas and things that you're looking for from Aspen. So if you didn't get to speak about something at open time, I'd recommend maybe participating in the community meetings as well. And Tara says that she will post the agenda on Slack today. So I highly recommend you join us in our Slack channel if you haven't already. You can always ask questions in our Aspen Slack channel, and the community channel in the Aspen Slack is where you can find more info about the community meeting. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. And we will see you next time and talk to you in the meantime. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you.